Thank you for being here, Josh. And I just wanted to talk a little bit about practicing and performing before we jump into the Reddit questions. So, you are an amazing creator. You create a lot of stuff
Oh, thank
in
you.
Magic. Yeah, no, I love all your stuff. But how often do you practice your stuff before you go out to perform it? Because that's a big issue. A lot of people post videos online maybe a little bit too soon, and a lot of people think that they don't practice enough. So where's your line?
It really sort of depends on the trick. It's sort of like a per trick basis kind of deal. So, like if and then also, I guess subsequently, it depends if this is a trick that I'm doing more because I wanted to make a video of it, or if I actually want to go out and like perform it for people. So I sort of like evaluate what it is I'm doing and where I would be doing it when I decide how much I practice. So, for example, if it's one that I'm doing for like an Instagram video, if I can do it live, then I definitely go out and I perform it live. And most of the things, I think I've only done like one video on there that wasn't really the best for a live performance.
Mm-hmm.
But what I do is I make sure that like it works when I perform for people. And so to practice that, I practice a lot in front of a mirror. I have a mirror like literally right next to me. I use the computer a lot. I use my phone, and I just sit and I practice from a bunch of different angles in front of the camera. So I make sure like, okay, this angle looks good. This one maybe not as good. So what can I do to clean that up? And it's when I feel that I could perform it for the camera without like being concerned of flashing, then that's sort of when I start to feel a little bit more confident because since I'm trying these multiple angles, it's also sort of simulating like the real world because like obviously I know in the real world when you're performing for people you don't just have someone straight ahead. You have people to your right, to your left, sometimes above you. If you're standing there sitting, they're below you. So I try figuring out what the ideal angles are so that way I know like where I'd be performing, whether it's for a camera, for a live audience. And if I feel like I can do it without there being any flashing, so in the case of the camera example, if I just record myself a bunch of times from different angles, if I'm able to do it without flashing, then I'm like, okay, you know what, this is good. Now I can go film it. And then typically it will take me actually a couple takes to get it right on camera just because of the fact that like in addition to making sure I'm flashing or not flashing rather, I want to make sure that like obviously it looks nice on camera, the camera's in focus, and a bunch of things like that that you don't really consider when you're performing in the real world because obviously people's eyes aren't going to go out of focus. Like you don't have to worry about that. And if they are, then you should probably reevaluate your act. But you don't have to worry about those things. So it's almost in some ways tougher to perform it for the camera than a live audience because like with a live audience you have patter, you have misdirection, but with a video camera it's just unblinking and staring, and you can't really do anything like to fix that. Like, is because I know some people like will change camera angles, but whenever you do that, people accuse you of like doing something because obviously, since it's not a live experience for them, they're like, oh, clearly when you swapped camera angles, you did a switch or you did a
Mm-hmm.
ditch or something like that. So it's a little bit tougher to actually do it straight for the camera because you have to rely on it just looking good without the use of any like audio misdirection.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm sure all of us have been here before when you're performing, and if you didn't say something at a certain point, your audience would notice that you did something because you have to ask them a question, you have to snap your fingers, you have to do something to cover up that. And with the video aspect, that's not something you have. So I actually find that doing these videos make me a better magician performing because since I have to figure out how would I perform this without relying on misdirection and stuff like that, once I have the ability to use misdirection and talking and just engaging with my audience, it makes it a lot easier. Um, like a perfect example would be is I do my ripped and restored dollar bill, ripped and
Mm-hmm.
relocated. Um, and with that one, it actually took me a couple of times to get it really good on the camera just because of the fact that like in a normal performance, I would be saying something at this moment. And I had to figure out, okay, well, I can't do that, so I have to make sure this looks as clean as possible. And it actually made the handling even better because now, like, I know that I could perform this without speaking, and it will still look just as well as if I was talking. So it's sort of, I know that sort of rambled off at the end a bit, but yeah, it's just I basically I practice it until it looks good from any angle, and I
Hmm.
feel like I don't have to worry about flashing, because that's like obviously the big concern when you perform a new trick is you don't want to mess up, you don't want to expose it, and that's also part of the reason why a lot of the times the first people I show when I'm actually performing a trick are family members or close friends, people who have seen me do magic before and know that I can do magic. And so if something were to go wrong, they're not going to suddenly like judge me and be like, "Oh, well, this is the worst magician I've ever seen in my life." Like
Hmm.
they are able to be like, "Okay, well, he did that really, really cool trick, and he said he just started this one. So you know what? Hey, I feel special that he's letting me help him." So it actually makes it a little bit better because now they're going in like feeling like, "Oh, cool! Like you're letting me into your magical world, and now I'm helping you become a better magician." And then later, you could do that same trick for them, and they won't even realize it because like you've now practiced it enough and you've changed it enough that the trick that you may have messed up that first time completely different to them the second time around. So sort of it's an internal thing when you feel like you're ready and you feel like okay, like I don't have to worry, that's when it's good to perform. That was a really long explanation. Hopefully
That's
hopefully you can
fine.
work with
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. No, I like that answer. You said something I found interesting. You said that with the camera, you don't necessarily have that pad or the audio misdirection. So do you find that after you make an effect work for the camera, will you sometimes do it differently for real people, or will you just keep doing it the same for real people and then just let the camera performance be the camera performance?
It's a combination of both. It sort of depends,
Mm-hmm.
honestly, on what the effect is. Because, like for example, um, like maybe I might sleeve something on camera just because I know it would look cleaner doing
Mm-hmm.
it that way. But in a real performance, I wouldn't want to do sleeving because I know that a simple like shuttle pass would
Right.
work just as fine. So it's nice though having those options because depending on the audience, maybe I have an audience that's like particularly burning my hands and they think that if I did a shuttle pass, I did something like just because like they're accusing you of like if you sneeze, like oh obviously that was part of the trick. Like
Mm-hmm.
you've had those audiences where it's just like no matter what it does, obviously it's messed up
Yeah.
and it's clearly a gimmick or a lie or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So in a situation like that, maybe the sleeving option that I did in the video might actually work better to my advantage because it lets me show my hands clean immediately as opposed to doing a fake transfer and then doing a ditch at some point. So sort of again, it's a case by case basis, but it's nice having both of those as an option because then you don't have to feel like, oh crap, well, this isn't going to work. What do I do? So you sort of have like option A, option B, and you know that no matter which one you do, you'll still get the same end result at the end for the audience. So
Right. So basically, just whatever works the best for the situation.
exactly, yeah. So like
Nice.
sometimes the video one works best. Sometimes it worked really, really good for video, but maybe it would just be a lot easier in the real world to do something else. And because I have that like misdirection of being able to talk to my spectators, it looks exactly the same to them. So it's like I said, it really is interesting when you film videos versus performing for people because you have to sort of like completely think of different things that you normally wouldn't do. And like for me personally, one thing I really try to stay away from is like I don't like ditching things off a camera.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Only because of the fact in the real world I wouldn't be able to like toss something off to the right of me kind of deal. So if I'm going to be doing a ditch off screen, I try to ditch it in the way that I would do it in the real world. So in that case, it's almost like flipped around. So now I'm bringing in the real world method into the video performance because of the fact that I want to make sure that if someone watches that video, they're like, oh, well, obviously you must have had to ditch it off a screen or something like that. I can be like, nope, like I can do this in the real world. And then I could go film a performance and prove that this is something that I can do in the real life situation.
Right. So you're just trying to get as far away from these camera tricks as possible.
Exactly. Exactly. And I almost actually feel because of the fact that like my actual field of profession is I'm an animator. I work in the
Oh.
VFX
Mm-hmm.
industry.
Mm-hmm.
So because I actually work in a world where we can make anything happen on camera,
Mm-hmm.
that's why I try to stay so far away from anything that could remotely be taken as that. Just because like I know that if I were to do camera tricks, I could do amazing camera tricks. And I don't
Right.
want that to happen. I want people to still be just as amazed knowing the thing that I showed them on the video is something that if they met me in person, I could do it for them.
Mm-hmm.
So
I have kind of a similar viewpoint. I don't have a professional career of it, but I'm in my last year of school for video editing.
Oh, awesome.
So, yeah, I don't do camera tricks on my magic, but the same thing, I can't animate, but I could do some tricks.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, definitely. So it's almost feels like there's a little bit extra pressure because you're like,
Hmm.
oh man, they know that I can do these things, so I need to make sure that they know I'm not doing these things.
Right.
So
Yeah, I love the hashtag you use, and I've started using it in my stuff. The Instagram, the hashtag, I think it's I hate camera tricks
yep,
magic.
yep,
I
yeah.
love that one.
Oh gosh,
Hmm.
Demian was the one who started that whole like hashtag, and the second I saw it, I'm like, oh, that's perfect. I
Yeah,
need
I
to
I
use that.
first saw it on yours, but like now that I notice it, it's kind of everywhere just because I notice it now, I think.
Yep. And I think it's because a lot of people, especially since like Instagram has sort of become its own subgenre of magic, like for these
Yeah,
super visual
for
things,
sure.
a lot of people are using it just to show that, hey, look, this is something that's not a camera trick. Just because a lot of people just automatically assume with like people with like Zach King who can throw himself through a wall and his pose like stay in place.
Yeah.
They want to make sure that like no, 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 this is not. I'm not Zach King. I'm a real
Hmm.
magician.
So for Instagram magic, speaking of that, do you ever create just for Instagram? Because I know like Whiplash is super visual. I don't remember what it's called, but I played with the idea of the cards, the opening the card box. What's that effect
Oh,
called?
Geronimo.
Yeah, Geronimo. Like those are both super visual. Do you ever do either of those in the real world, or do they
Oh,
stay
a
on
hundred
Instagram?
percent,
Okay,
a
cool.
hundred percent. Yeah, no. Whiplash was something that I was doing in my gigs for years before I ever actually like released it.
Hmm.
And then when it came out, I mean, I still do it. I have it
Hmm.
literally in my bag for work with
Nice.
me. So I use Whiplash all the time. And then with Geronimo, the whole reason for that is I loved a lot of the visual like box vanishes. Nicholas Lawrence's U2,
Hmm.
super super cool. I really like them. Um, but the thing for me is I wanted to come up with one for first of all for myself because sometimes like I'll see people have their own versions of things. I'm like, oh, that's so cool. I want to come up with my own version.
Hmm.
And just sort of like almost like an exercise in creativity. Like, okay, what can I do that can be maybe just as visual as that one, but it's easier to make than this one, and maybe it's a little bit cleaner. Is that like I try to take bits and pieces of like what I would want in my own and make that happen. And so with Geronimo, the whole thing started was I loved Nicholas Lawrence's. I thought it was super fantastic. Um, but I at that point I was sort of going through a couple of different decks that I was using at the restaurant because I was trying to figure out which one I was getting cheapest and which one it lasted the longest. And so I didn't want to have to keep on making a new U2 gimmick for each and every one of those just
Right.
because of the fact that it is a little bit more time intensive than some other gimmicks.
Hmm.
And so I was like, okay, well, how can I make something that's just as visual, that is easier to make? So that way, if I had to make one up sort of on the fly kind of deal, like maybe I only had an hour before a gig, I could definitely make one and not have any concern about it breaking or anything. And so that's sort of how that one came to be. And so I literally, after I came up with it, worked on it for a while. I posted the video. People seemed to like it. I took it out into the real world and I used it in the restaurant for probably about 2 or 3 months before I ended up switching to the opener that I currently use.
Hmm.
But yeah, I used that one in the restaurant for a while and it worked really, really well. And the handling for that, actually, the one that I taught on the Penguin lecture came from doing it in the restaurant because I was doing a completely different handling. And just working in the restaurant, I realized, oh, this is so much easier. This is how I should be doing it. And so it's one of those things where, like, initially I had one way of doing it in my mind, and then I
Hmm.
came up with some other ones. So I'm like, no, I'm gonna stick with that one. And then one day it just hit me. I'm like, oh my god, this is it. Like, this is how to do it. So yeah, I definitely make sure, like I said, that I do stuff that can be done in the real world.
Hmm.
And I'm trying to think. The only one there's two. There's two videos that I've done that I can at least think of off the top of my head that would be tougher to do in the real world. They could be
Hmm.
done if you were doing like a close-up show, but for strolling, not going to happen. And it was I did a card through table, a card through
Hmm.
glass one. The method for that was ridiculous and would only work, like I said, in a parlor situation. And then there was a video that I did with Jeff Price,
Hmm.
uh, where I took a dollar bill and I made it vanish visually, and then it reappeared in California, and he made it visually reappear. And that one, again, totally doable in a performance setting if I was like on stage or in a close-up gallery, but I could not do that strolling at all.
Right.
But so I guess that would be the closest to a Instagram-only trick that I could think of, because I try to make sure that the stuff I post on Instagram is things that I could do strolling, since that's the situation I'm typically in. So, but still, technically, you can do it in the real world. So it's one of those like, oh,
Right. So you mentioned your penguin lecture. Just
yes.
how was that? That's got to be exciting.
That was so much fun. So it was particularly exciting for me for a couple reasons. And that was because when I first got into Magic, like the first like legit Magic site I found was Penguin Magic. And back in the day, they had forums, which were the greatest thing ever. I miss those forums so much, and I wish that they were still around. But I'm also kind of glad that they're not, so no one can see my stupid questions I asked when I first got into Magic.
Nice.
But that forum was fantastic, and I met a lot of my really good Magic friends from that forum. Jeff Grace, for example, who's one of my best friends just in general, we met originally on the Penguin Magic forums, just because
cool.
I just started into Magic, and he had just released Gum. Like, it was literally maybe within like 3 months of each other or something. So like he was just starting to like become a Magic creator that people knew, and I was just starting to get into Magic. So he was really nice, and he sent me his Gum DVD, and like just chatting with them. Chris Beeson, who works for Penguin, now actually got the job through the Penguin forum, but he's one of my really good friends. So like that whole thing was super awesome. So being able to do a Penguin Live was just like a complete dream, just because like when they started doing those, it's like, oh, that's really cool. Like I want to be able to do one of those, and like hopefully one day people will actually want to like learn my stuff. And I got like a little taste of it because in Jeff's Penguin lecture, I think he did 3 things that were mine in there. And
Oh, really? That's
yeah,
cool.
yeah. It's really funny because so his was back when the videos were actually live.
Right.
And because now the format, for those who don't know, it used to be that it was a live lecture, so the audience was just typically magicians, because obviously they'd be learning stuff. But now the way they do it, which I actually think is super cool, is you do a live show the night before, and then you do the lecture for magicians. And so what's nice about that is you're able to play clips of your performance the night before, so they can actually see it like being done for an actual audience, which is kind of nice. But yeah, so Jeff's was back when it was still live, and if you watch at the very end, he says, "Oh, this is my last trick," and then he looks at his phone and he says, "Oh, I've just been informed I forgot one trick." And that was me texting him, because since the night before he had told me what he was going to do, I had his set list on my phone. And so I saw that he had forgot one of the tricks he wanted to go cover, so I texted him quickly so he wouldn't forget. So
Nice.
that was sort of like my first experience with Penguin Live. I was like, oh, that's really cool. It's like I was already super excited. Now I'm like, I want this to happen.
Yeah.
And then finally they came to me. They're like, hey, we want to do a Penguin Live with you, and I was like, yes, let's do that. I'm super excited. Like I was so pumped, and it was actually really funny because it happened around the same time that Murphy's asked me to do an At the Table. So I filmed both of those. They're going to come out significantly time apart, but I filmed both of those within a month of each other. And so I had to come up with 2 completely different lectures, because I wanted to make sure that you didn't get the same material twice, because that's like so annoying when you like buy one lecture from one place and you're like, oh, I'm going to go buy the other lecture too, and it's the same exact stuff.
Yeah.
So I made sure that they were 2 completely different lectures, and it was just like the month leading up to the Penguin one, I was just like going through all my archives, being like, okay, well, I know I'm going to cover this one and that one, and I want to do this one and that one, and oh, this would be really good. So it was a huge thing, because I was also getting ready to move to Canada, which I'm now in Montreal. So it was just like a bunch of stuff happening all at once, and then obviously I was super excited because like here's one of my Magic dreams like coming true. Like I can check that off the bucket list. So, and I've known a lot of the Penguin people for years, just again through meeting them at conventions, and some of them, one of the guys, Nick, he used to live in Orlando, so I used to
really?
hang out with him.
Cool.
Yeah, he used to live in this place called the Magic Estate, which is a super cool place in Orlando. It was founded by Jeff Kaler and Anton James, and they used to have these massive like Magic jam sessions where people from all over the place would come. And like that's how I met Michael Lamar. That's how I met Magic Belay, Alex Pandrea, Chad Long, Robbie Moreland, a bunch of people would show up there. So that's how I knew Nick. So it was cool doing the Penguin Live just because I've known some of these people
Hmm.
for years, and like it was just sort of like hanging out with friends and talking to
That's
people.
awesome.
So
And I'm not just saying it because you're here, but your lecture on Penguin was one of the better ones I've seen.
I appreciate it. Thank you
Yeah.
very much.
Um, but so you did the two lectures, and you moved to Montreal,
Yes.
and you have a book that's out now.
Oh, yes, yeah. So I
Yes.
have I'm currently working on a bigger book, but I have a
Okay.
booklet that just came out,
Hmm.
which is just Joshin.
Hmm.
And so those were my lecture notes in a little book form because I wanted to like make something really nice. And that one was actually really fun because it was sort of a collaboration of me and some of my closest friends. So my buddy Sean Cinco, who was like the first magician I ever like actually like befriended and hung out constantly with in person. He actually introduced me to like all the magicians in Orlando. So hi Sean. But he took all the photos for the book, and then my friend Lindsay, who I did animation school with, she
Hmm.
took the cover photos. Jeff helped with the writing, and then my buddy Graham helped with the actual like layout and design of everything. So it was a really fun project, just because like I got to work with a lot of my closest friends to create this amazing looking and hopefully full of
Hmm.
cool tricks lecture book. And I people were really liking it at my lectures, and a couple people were like, "Oh, like, are you going to make this available just in general?" So I ended up making it available in general so people can enjoy. And it has 10 of my favorite effects, and they're all stuff that like I've actually used in the real world. Because again, I actually go out and perform. Before I moved here and started my full-time job, I was a restaurant magician in Orlando. So like I had to
Hmm.
make sure things actually worked because you're doing it for table after table after table. So it has to be quick to reset. It has to be good, pretty angle wise, all these things. So this booklet is full of those kinds of tricks that I use and hopefully other people will use.
Yeah, that's really cool. I was gonna buy it, but it's out of stock. Come on, Josh.
Is
It's too
it
popular.
really? Oh my gosh. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. So I actually didn't know that.
Oh
So
wow.
cool.
Yeah.
That's a
Well,
pleasant
there you
surprise.
go. There's some news, some good news for you.
I guess I better go order some more.
Yeah. um, for Restaurant Magic, you just mentioned doing Restaurant Magic in Orlando. You do have a full time animation job up in Montreal now. Are you
Correct.
going to still be doing as much magic?
Yes and
Oh, that
no.
was an awkward
So
question.
cut the review. No, just
Yeah.
kidding. No, yeah, yes and no. So I'm always going to be doing magic. But right now, since for me, animation is actually like my main passion, my main career,
Hmm.
that is what has the primary focus.
Hmm.
So since I just moved to the area, I haven't even been here for like a month. So I haven't
Right.
even been at my work for a month yet. I want to sort of get like used to everything, and then I might start looking into doing like maybe one restaurant like on the weekends kind of deal.
Hmm.
But definitely just with the workload that I have, and then also because like I said, I am in the film industry, so like there's going to be a time where it's like, all right, this is crunch time, like you have to do this, and that's when my
Right.
social life is going to like vanish. So like I definitely am open to doing shows here. I actually got contacted by one of my Uber drivers, which is a funny story, to do a show. I think in like 2 months
Oh
here, so I'm
wow. Cool.
definitely going to still be performing, and I perform at my office. I actually just this past Friday was the day that people found out I was a magician, so that was fun. But yeah, I definitely am going to like still be performing and stuff, but and then always creating magic. Like that's never gonna stop, kind of deal. So, but since the full-time job is the priority, I'm probably not going to be doing as much of like professional gigs as I used to. So,
Right. And so with the professional gigs, I mainly know you as a restaurant magician. That's what you are pretty much on the internet. You always have restaurant advice, and that's kind of what people refer to you as on like Reddit. And I don't know if you're active on the Magic Cafe anymore, but
yep, still
I
am.
know I've seen you on there before. How many gigs do you do that aren't restaurant magic? Like if you had to go percentage wise, like
I'm trying to think. Honestly, yeah, the majority of the gigs were restaurant magic. Before I did the restaurant stuff, obviously I did a lot more of other shows.
Yeah,
Like I
yeah.
used to do kid shows. I used to do a lot of like fairs and stuff like that. But
Hmm.
I would definitely say the percentage was predominantly like 90% restaurant stuff, just because of the fact that like it was something I felt the most comfortable doing. It was consistent kind of deal. And then also, since I do travel a lot because of magic, it was also sort of like the easiest to handle because there were a couple of
Hmm.
times where I would get a gig offer and I was already like out of the state at that time.
Right.
So with the restaurant, it was the most consistent. So I would definitely say that was the majority of it. But like before I did the restaurants, most of them were like fairs, um, couple bar mitzvahs as
Hmm.
well, and just like casual strolling events was
Hmm.
basically what I was doing. So all I did was I took that and I applied that to the restaurant because it was pretty much the same thing, except
Right.
it's in the same place every time. So,
Cool. And you mentioned doing kids magic, and whenever somebody says they do kids magic, I have to ask a question.
okay,
How different is your kids magic material than your regular working material?
a bajillion percent different. A
Okay.
bajillion percent. Yeah. When I perform for kids magic, I am very silly
Hmm.
and like very all over the place. What you call it, Mario, the magician, who
Hmm.
is amazing. And if you guys have not seen him, like go see him. I know he's a kids magician. Incredible show.
Hmm.
Um, so his super hyper all over the place character is similar to what I would do, not nearly as intense as his. Like his I was out of breath watching his show and I
Right.
was like, that's amazing that he
I
does it
always
all
love
the
those.
time. But yeah, like for me, like when would do kid shows, the first thing I would do is a vanishing bandana, like a vanishing silk handkerchief effect. And it's a pretty it's a long for a kid show routine just because there's a lot of stuff. It's not the just like, oh, here's the handkerchief and now it's gone.
Hmm.
Like first I put it into my hand and it falls through the my fist and I'm like, ta-da, it's gone. Everyone's like, it's on the floor and like I freak out. And so then like I'm like, oh, I'm so silly. Like forgot the magic words. Like that was the mistake. So they say the magic words and then I put it in my hand and it pops up in my face. I'm like, ah, I forgot that. And then we're like, oh, we forgot the wand. So like I bring the kid up and we do the breakaway wand. And then finally it's like it vanishes. And then like I cough it up at the very end. And it's just like
Hmm.
this really long routine. But like I would never do that in a strolling situation.
Right.
First of all, just because I'm like literally screaming and running around and that probably wouldn't look good at a corporate event.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's a very, very different show. And then also like with kids stuff, like I don't do like card tricks or money tricks just because like that's not something that they can relate to.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's a very, very different show. Takes a lot out of me, but
Yeah.
it's fun. I really enjoy it. So,
That's cool. I'm just asking everybody because I just got contracted to do magic for the Parks and Rec services this summer. And
oh, that's
fun
awesome.
fact, I don't have a kids show.
Okay, well,
So yeah.
Eric LeClaire is
Really? Okay.
someone. Yeah, he has a SpongeBob routine, which
Hmm.
is absolutely amazing.
Oh,
Um,
is that the one with the pointer finger for a
yes,
wand?
yeah,
Yep, I have
so
that. I
good,
have that.
so good.
Yep.
That's fantastic. David Kay's Silly Billy,
Mhm.
like book and DVD are
Mhm.
great. And actually, let me pull it up for you. There's a DVD series that I used to use a lot. Let's see if I can find it.
See, everyone listening, this is why Josh Janowski is awesome. He's just a super helpful guy. He's an amazing creator. There you go.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. Where's my order history? Um, where is it? You can tell that this was a while ago just because I'm like scrolling
Mhm.
through.
Yeah, you can tell that we definitely had this planned because of
Right?
how
This was
seamless we're
like,
pulling
oh,
it off.
100%. Okay,
Yeah.
where's it? Well, let's go to my account. But yeah, in a moment, I'll tell you a
Right.
DVD series that I recommend because this guy it's killing me. I can't remember his name. I want to say he's Australian, um, which I don't know if that will help at all because no, if it was before that.
I know an Austrian kids magician if that helps.
They start with the same letter.
Yeah, they sound similar.
Here we go. Here we go. No Fail Kids Magic by Sean Taylor.
Okay, I haven't heard of
Yeah.
that.
So he has three DVDs, and they are absolutely fantastic. A lot of great information on kids stuff because he's been at that time of the DVD. He had been doing it for like 15 years, and there's over like 30 tricks and routines and effects. It's super cool. So yeah, I would definitely recommend checking that out since
Cool, yeah, I will.
trying to do
And
more kid stuff.
anyone listening, Kids Magic, if you want, that's apparently a great resource.
Right? People who would have expected
Yeah.
my talk with you would have been talking about kids magic
Yeah, we went
resource.
from creation to Instagram to restaurant to Kids Magic.
Perfect.
Yeah, we're good at segues here.
Exactly.
Speaking of segues, they're a little bit awkward, so let's just jump in. How'd you turn it from a hobby to a career?
Oh gosh. Oh, that's a good question. Well, okay, so the first
Oh, real quick,
show.
no pressure. I asked this to Dan Harlan, and he talked for about 40 minutes. So,
Okay. Well, in that case, I'm going to talk for 46.
there you go.
No. Yeah, so for me, the first time I did a show, and it wasn't a paid show, but it was like my
Hmm.
first time doing a show, it was a kid show at my local library. And I was actually friends with my librarian, um, which, shows the kind of kid I was in high school.
Yeah.
But so I was friends with my librarian, and she knew that I was like doing magic, and she's like, "Oh, like, do you want to do a show here one time?" I'm like, "Yes, let's do it." I was super pumped, and the show was supposed to. I was going to do two shows, and it was going to be like 40 people total. So like
Mhm.
between the two shows, it was going to be
Right.
40 people, and it ended up being like 125
Oh,
or
wow.
something. Like I was not expecting that, and that's the first time I'm performing for like
Hmm.
people that aren't like my classmates. I'm like, oh
Yeah.
my gosh, this is gonna be interesting. Thankfully, it went really well. But after that, I was like, oh, I want to do more,
Hmm.
and it just happened to be a coincidence. But I ended up running into a person that I knew in high school, and she was working at her mom's daycare center, and she was like, "Oh, you're a magician now. You know what? You should like chat with my mom. Maybe you could do some shows at the daycare." And I was like, "Oh, this is awesome." So
Yeah.
I spoke with her mom. Ended up started doing shows at the daycare, and I'm like, "Oh, this is cool." So like now, like I'm starting to do some shows and stuff. And then at that point, I switched to a different college. And when I went to the new college, I went to UCF, which is like one of the I think it actually is the largest university in the U.S. now. Like it's like 65,000 students.
Yeah,
It's
it's either that or I think George Mason. And the only reason I say that is because that's where I go, and they're big about being one of the biggest.
nice. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was gonna say it keeps on like swapping around, so I don't
Yeah.
know who's winning right now.
Yeah. UCF
Um,
is pretty big, though. I've got a couple friends that go there. I grew up in Florida in Jacksonville, so
oh yeah, I forgot you were
yeah.
telling me about
Yeah.
that. Yeah. So anyway, UCF is huge, and so I would do street magic videos at UCF. Sean would be my camera person, and we'd walk around and film videos.
Hmm.
And at one point, I was performing for someone. They're like, "Oh, you should talk to like the campus advisory board because they do these things called oh gosh, what was it? UCF nights. It was something with nights. I'm trying to
Hmm.
late nights. Late nights is what
Yeah.
it was called
They're
because it
big
was a
on nights.
I was gonna say UCF's mascot, for those who don't know, is a knight. So like whenever you could use a knight pun, they would.
Yeah.
So it was called late nights, and they were like, you should talk to them. And so I remember I went to their office. I'm like, hey, I'm a magician. I heard you guys do things. Can I perform at your things? And then I started having a monthly gig where I would be performing for hundreds of students, and it was great because like I actually got consistent feedback that like the reason they kept on bringing me back is because I was one of the things that everyone would mention,
That's
just because
awesome.
most people haven't seen magic. And it got to the
Hmm.
point where I'd be walking around campus and people would be like, "Hey, Josh, how you doing?" And it was super awkward because like they obviously remember me because I'm a magician, but
Hmm.
like I performed for like 300 people that weekend, so like I don't remember every single person.
Yeah.
So like I was suddenly panicking. I'm like, how do I know them? Like, do I have class with them? What's happening? And then realizing later on that it was a group that I performed for. But it was really cool. So like that's sort of when it became more of like not just a hobby
Hmm.
anymore. And then when I graduated college, that's again when I started to actually like do magic conventions, and so I was now being booked to go places and perform while I was there. And then eventually I was like, you know what, I want to be able to have a steady performance gig and also get some income I'm gonna go do some restaurant stuff. So it sort of all evolved from that one library show.
That's
And I know
really
this
cool.
wasn't 46 minutes, so
Yeah, hey,
I
hey,
should just
that's
like
fine.
read the phone book to catch up
Hmm.
with Dan.
Yeah.
So,
I have two questions that are completely not related to magic. They're just Orlando questions.
okay, okay.
Have you ever had Lazy Moon pizza?
So I'm actually allergic
Oh
to
no.
like everything.
Back it up, back it
Yeah,
up.
right. Delete this immediately.
Yes.
No, I'm allergic to like everything, so I unfortunately never had Lazy Moon pizza.
No.
But my friends did, and it smelled delicious,
Yeah.
and it was really big and
Yeah, I
looked
was
really good.
just the whole thing. It's just, one slice is as big as your head.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I have a big head, so
One slice is as big as Josh's head specifically. They
specific.
actually measured his head before they started the restaurant,
It was
just to
really
make
weird. I don't
sure.
know where they got that measurement because I've
Yeah.
never been there myself.
Yeah,
But
there's a cast of his head in the restaurant at every table.
oh my God, that would be so creepy and cool all at the same time,
Yeah, especially if you don't know about it.
right? I
Yeah.
just walk in, I'm like, what is happening
You're
here?
like, huh,
Is this a
what?
cult? Am I running a cult? Did no one tell me?
Did
Like,
I accidentally buy a pizza shop when I was drunk?
I don't drink either, so that's why I really want to know how that
Yeah.
happened.
Man, what? How did this happen? Okay. The second Orlando question. At Disney Springs, which is downtown Disney, they just changed the name because downtown Disney wasn't a part of my childhood or anything. I'm not bitter. Um,
Oh, they like changing names. I
they
still
do. They
call
do.
Hollywood Studios like MGM, and I don't know what it is
Yeah.
now.
Oh,
Ugh. But
gosh.
continue. Sorry,
Yeah.
I was
No. Oh,
ranting
it's
with you.
fine. Yeah. MGM. I went to MGM. I didn't go to Hollywood Studios. Ugh. Um, have you done? I just did this when I was down there for spring break. Have you done something? The Star Wars experience, The Void.
No, I actually have
Oh,
not done
okay.
that yet because they started to open that when I was moving.
Oh no.
Yeah, so I never got a chance to do
Oh
it.
my
But
god.
next time I'm in Orlando, I'm definitely going there
Yeah.
because I
These
am a
Orlando questions are not
humongous.
working out.
It's okay. I'm a humongous Star Wars fan, like a
Yeah.
massive Star Wars fan. So
Just
I definitely will be doing it when I
it
go back to like
it
visit my
was
family.
great.
You know, actually, one of my
Set
friends just
high
posted a picture
expectations.
today about doing it. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
I want to do
Wow. It was fun.
it.
Cool. So back to magic.
Since those seem to be working out better again.
Yeah, you have good answers for those, and I just butcher myself on these Orlando questions trying to relate to another human.
It's all good. It's all good. You're doing great.
Oh, thank you.
And I was not paid to say that. This is
Yeah.
a
So transitions and cameraman when magicking.
yes,
Wow, words are hard.
they are.
So when you're performing restaurant magic, sometimes you record that. Is it ever awkward when you bring a cameraman? How does that work? Does he just come for one trick, or does he stay the
So
whole
I
night?
actually have never had a cameraman in the restaurant.
Oh,
Instead,
really?
yeah,
I
I
feel
just
like I've
hand them
seen
my
that.
phone.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Cool.
I literally I just hand someone my phone, and I'll normally it's one of two things. I either tell them like, "Hey, look, like this is something I'm trying out.
Hmm.
Do you think we could film it so that way I could like watch it back later?" And they're like, "Oh, that's cool," because now they feel like they're part of something.
Hmm.
Um, or it's like, "Oh my gosh, I love this trick so much. I want to like relive it. Is it cool if I film this?" Like, so
Yeah.
that's been a thing. And then one time it was just I said, "Hey, I'm getting some footage together for a demo video. Is that cool?" So I hand them the camera,
Hmm.
and it's kind of fun because I mean, like the quality obviously isn't the best because it's
Yeah.
my cell phone, and obviously, typically they're kind of inebriated, so it's a little shaky, but it's still kind of cool being able to get like that in. So, and then if I'm able to do the trick with one hand, there's been a couple times where I'm holding the camera and performing
Oh,
with one
cool.
hand. Actually, the live performance I posted for IG, that's
Hmm.
exactly what happened. Is
Oh,
I'm
wow.
holding my phone up by my face and I'm like doing the trick with the other hand, and
Hmm.
that's how I did that entire performance. But
Wow.
I got a cool video of me doing
Yeah,
it, so worked out in the end.
that's awesome.
But yeah, I just never brought in a camera person just because of the
Hmm.
fact that my normal go-to camera people would always been busy on nights I was
Hmm.
performing. So I never really looked into, hey, could I bring someone in and then have to figure out like waivers and stuff because it's a lot easier to just be like,
Yeah,
hey,
for sure.
can you film yourself? Is that cool? because then they give you permission right there. So
Yeah. So I do some restaurant work too. I just once a week. Wow, I'm blanking on the name of the restaurant. Texas Roadhouse. That's
oh,
it.
cool, nice.
I should know that. um, but it's so awkward sometimes when people, instead of like participating in the magic, they just get out Snapchat. Do you ever experience stuff like that? Like they just want to record you. They don't really want to watch you.
Yes, I have that, but I try to use that to my advantage.
Mm-hmm.
So, like one thing I mentioned in my Penguin Live, for those who haven't seen it, is I have a little sign it's a little like table tent that I place at the table when I perform, and I have my social media information on that. So if I'm performing and someone says, "Oh, can I snap this?" First of all, I always say yes,
Oh, for
just
sure.
because of
Yeah.
the fact that like I know a lot of people are like, "No, you can't film me," blah blah blah.
Really? Wow.
Yeah,
No,
I don't
I'm
know
all
why.
for it.
Exactly, right? So I'm all for it. But what I specifically do is I tell them to make sure that they get the sign,
Okay.
like in the shot. And it gets a laugh, but also I've gotten like followers and messages from people who
Mm-hmm.
have seen that. I actually got a message on Instagram from another magician who saw me on their friend's Snapchat, which
Wow.
was a whole long circle there. Actually, it wasn't. It was like three things. But still, so the
Mm-hmm.
deal was though because of that. So like I also typically, if I see that they're filming it, I try to then maybe modify what it is that I'm doing because
Mm-hmm.
I obviously know that like okay, there's a camera, so I can't be doing a top change here because they'll see that.
Mm-hmm.
So how am I gonna change it up? So like I have certain things that I know would maybe look a little bit better on Snapchat that also looks good in person. So like Whiplash is actually a great example because that's a trick that I know I can perform in person for camera. So I don't have to worry about something flashing or being caught on anything or this angle being bad because that's something that you can do from literally any angle. So like that's a
Mm-hmm.
trick that I use a lot if someone pulls out their phone to Snapchat something, or I'll do some sort of like mentalism thing where I get a peek, but they have no idea that I've gotten a peek. So even if you watch the video back, like I've never seen something, or like I'll specifically get the peek before they start recording. So now on the video, it looks
Right.
like I'm just straight up
Real
mind reading,
magic.
which is fantastic. So yeah, I have no issue with it. I just maybe readjust what I'm doing to like adapt to that. But
Mm-hmm.
typically at some point they end up putting the camera away because like with Snapchat specifically, since you only have like those 10 seconds and then I guess you can do like another clip. I don't know. I don't use Snapchat. But because it's a shorter time, a lot of times people will miss stuff and then
Mm-hmm.
they end up actually putting their phones away so they can enjoy the moment.
Yeah.
So sometimes that actually works out better in my favor because I got the quick little exposure
Mm-hmm.
and then they put the phone away and then they're more into the moment.
Cool.
Yeah.
And you mentioned Whiplash, going in a completely different direction. That was a great answer, but
Thank you. Thank you.
um, Whiplash actually came out right when I was going from I'm going to learn from YouTube videos to oh, there are real people doing better things.
That's awesome.
So, yeah, that's about the time when I started getting serious in magic is when Whiplash came out. And that was the first effect of yours that I noticed and I'm like, "Wait, is that the guy from Reddit that was answering the questions?" Okay.
That's awesome. Yeah, I remember your review that you posted. I was
Oh,
like,
yeah, I
oh,
did
cool.
do that.
I was very
Yeah.
excited because like that was like my first like physical magic product that I released. So it was like very
Cool.
exciting for me to see like all the reviews. I was like,
Cool.
oh yay.
Yeah,
So
some 19-year-old kid in his bedroom saying Whiplash is good.
and it meant the world to me.
Oh.
So
Do back to the question,
yeah,
just so I
sorry.
don't forget it. No, you're fine. It's me. I'm the problem. Do you ever release an effect and then think of something else you can do with it? Like, for example, did I think you commented on my Geronimo Instagram video, the thing I did with the Magic the Gathering cards?
Yeah.
Um, and that's completely different than your effect. And I was thinking of something I could do with Whiplash. Just, I'm not gonna say how it works, but or how Whiplash works. I'll say how my thing works. It's a flap card, and then you have like a five of spades and a three of spades, and then you do the Whiplash move, and the top flaps to like an eight of spades. So it's like a math trick almost,
Oh, cool. Okay.
but for Instagram. But I'm terrible at making flap cards, so that's probably never gonna happen.
They're
But
tough.
do you ever think of anything like that after you release an effect? And if so, do you put that knowledge into the public, or do you just keep it to yourself?
I mean, okay, so like for me personally, I try to put as much information when I release something as
Mm-hmm.
possible, just because of the fact that like I don't want to do a 2.0.
Yeah.
And like in some cases when there's like a 2.0, like it's worth it. Like for example, like with Extreme Burn from Richard Sanders, the
Mm-hmm.
first one I had it for years, used it, it was great. But then when he released the Locked and Loaded version, I'm like, that is a game changer. So like that I felt was like a worthy 2.0. But then there'll be other times where it's like, okay, 2.0 is just like built slightly better kind of deal.
Yeah.
So like I don't want to do a 2.0 thing, so I try to put as much information as I can into a project. And the if there are new things, like I'll maybe mention them like in a lecture. So actually a really good example is so my effect IG
Mm-hmm.
on so this is a little sneak peek for you guys because this isn't out yet, but in my at the table, I go over IG on the at the table, but what I do is I actually am teaching ideas that were submitted to me. So these are
Oh, cool.
people who watched IG, came up with their own like ideas and handlings, messaged me, and I was like, "This is amazing," and so I'm teaching that. So like that's an expanded thing that I've done. So I like those are the kind of things that I would do. I
Mm-hmm.
try to get as much as I can, and if I have the ability to update something, then like I'll update it in the original thing. So I have an effect called Impeached that still hasn't actually come out, and it was the first thing I ever filmed. Just because we keep on adding new things to it, and so the people who
Mm-hmm.
have purchased it from me from my lectures have gotten those new things added, and that's why like with the digital download, it's kind of great because if you do learn something new, so if you maybe find out a new credit or if you have a new routine that isn't necessarily worthy of doing an entire brand new release, you can just add that on to your existing uh, download kind of deal, which is,
Mm-hmm.
I think, really cool. And that's actually why I'm a fan of downloads. Originally, I was totally against them. I'm like, no, I want DVDs.
Mm-hmm.
Have to be DVDs. And then it was Jeff Kaler who was the one who actually was the one who like showed me the benefit of being able to, with a download, it becomes more of a living archive rather than like
Right.
this is how the trick is.
Yeah.
So yeah, so
Downloads
I
and
try.
books.
Yes, exactly. So I try to put as much stuff as I can
Mm-hmm.
into a project when I release it, just so that way, like, there isn't going to be a 2.0 later on.
Right. My favorite 2.0 story is, you might be familiar with it if anybody here has ever seen Sean Farquhar's Penguin lecture.
Mhm.
His torn and restored mismade photo. He says he
Yes.
released it, and then somebody said, "Why don't you do it this way?" And so he bought up all the DVDs because he didn't want it going into the world
Yep.
the imperfect way, which is
Exactly.
crazy.
Exactly. Yeah, that's nuts. And he's Sean
Yeah.
Farquhar, so he can do
Yeah.
that. Most people probably couldn't do that, but
Yeah.
that'd be amazing if they could.
Mm-hmm.
So shout out to Sean.
Yeah, he's amazing. I love him.
He's so nice. I met him finally at Magi Fest because we were both part of Magi Fest this year, and such a cool dude.
Oh, that's
Really
cool.
awesome. Yeah,
Yeah, hopefully he comes on the podcast. We're talking over email,
nice.
so that'd be cool. But
His brother was an animator, actually.
really, I didn't know
Yeah,
he had a
no,
brother.
small. Yeah, I know, small world.
Yeah,
So,
that's cool. And so you mentioned impeached. I have a quick question before my question. That's
okay,
weird.
it's a sub
Is
question.
impeach? Yeah, is impeach the one where the face on the dollar bill changes?
Yes,
Okay, so that, and then your inside out bill.
yes,
Are you
impossible.
ever going to release those on how
So,
to make them?
no,
Nope, never.
that never. That is one of my things.
Hmm.
There are certain tricks that I do
Hmm.
that I am known for, and I am keeping to myself.
Right.
Uh, and it's cool because like I feel like now I'm finally in a position because so the magic world is weird with the fact that obviously in order for something to be considered yours, you have to release it or you have to have it be so well known that it's yours that like if
Hmm.
anyone else does it, they're like, hold on a second,
That's
that's so and so.
Josh's.
So for me, it was like when I first was creating stuff before anyone knew who I was, I felt like that was the only way things could be known as mine
Hmm.
is if it was published. But I feel like now I've gotten to the point where like, okay, some people know who I am and some is better than none. And so now there's certain routines that I do that people know me for that I'm glad that I can keep to myself because they are such like a personal routine with my own specific ways of doing them that I don't necessarily would want to see someone else doing it just because it would
Mm-hmm.
feel kind of weird. It'd be
Yeah.
like if someone else had your exact name. Like you would just be like, but that's my name.
Right.
Why do you have my name? So it's like it's because of that. So the Impossibles, those are one of those just because of the fact that's like such a me thing. And I spent a long time figuring out what to do to make that happen. Because
Right.
like the whole thing was I loved the Jamie D. Grant's cards in bottles. I think that's
Mm-hmm.
awesome, and I wanted an impossible object,
Yeah.
and it took a while to like figure out what my object was going to be and why was it unique. So yeah,
Right.
so I'm sorry to burst the bubble on that one.
Maybe in 80 years or so, when you're old and on your deathbed, you'll be like, okay, here's the secret.
Yeah, no, it's gonna be all right, guys. This is the secret and flatline. Like
Yep.
that will be.
It's gonna be a Janousky dynasty secret
Yes, perfect.
that
Oh, great. Now we're
six
talking about my
generation.
mortality.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
6 generations down, somebody's gonna sell out. It'll eventually get into the public.
never.
It'll not. It might
I will hunt them. I
from
will.
from the grave.
Yeah, I will come back and be like, look, I'm a ghost.
Yeah,
I'm gonna make
this
your
was
life
not
hell.
yours.
You put that thing back where it came from, or so help me.
Yes, or so help me. That's great. Monsters Inc.
I'm an animator. I had to slip something
Yeah,
in.
you have to.
So,
Pixar movies are great. Here's an animation question. Have you seen Coco?
of course, one of my
It's
friends wrote
so
that.
good. Really? Oh, it's so good.
It's really good. It's such a
Yeah.
good movie. I
Well,
love the movie.
how do we transition from Coco back to magic? We'll just mention it awkwardly and then do it.
Okay,
So, for the Impossibles, do you
Coco.
sell though? Coco.
There
Yeah.
we go. See, that was the
Yeah.
segue.
Yeah, Coco, magic, done.
Okay. So
For
for the
the
Impossibles.
yeah, for the Impossibles, do you sell those? I'm not familiar, or
Yes.
is that just
So
yeah?
that is something that if people have one, it's because I made it for them as a gift.
Gotcha. Cool.
So that's sort of like again another reason why it's like one of my signature things is like I make those for people and I give that to the person.
Cool.
So like it's people either that like I've been friends with for years or like
Mhm.
someone like I really admire. So it's actually kind of cool like the people who have.
I don't know that.
Sorry, my Alexa apparently the
Did
interview.
you say Alexa?
I didn't, so that was kind of
No.
weird.
Yeah.
Um,
Alexa was just saying, even I don't know how he does the
Yeah,
impossible.
right? See, people, even the NSA doesn't
Yeah.
know how I make this
You
happen.
tape your webcam, all microphones gone, you go into a dark room.
But yeah, so it's kind of cool, like the list of people who I have given them to, because like there's really, really well-known people, and then there's people who like I know them and they're really well-known to me, but like the rest of the world might
Right.
not know who they are just because they don't put themselves out into
Mhm.
the magic world like
I
that.
gotta
So
ask, did you give one to David Blaine?
yeah, both Copperfield and Blaine have one.
Cool, that's awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah. The most famous person I've done magic for would be Piff. I can't imagine doing magic for David Blaine.
Actually, fun side note with Piff, uh, his Chris Kenner is Anton from the Magic Estate.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so that's actually how I met Piff
Yeah.
was through Anton.
Oh, that's awesome. I just met Piff through a series of lucky connections.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
No,
my stepdad is like a high lecture agent or whatever, and he knows. I don't know if you're familiar, but Bill Hers, who,
Oh.
yeah, for anyone who doesn't know, Bill Hers like books corporate magicians like Copperfield and Lance Burton, and just is big friends with Piff. And I'm like, hey, Bill, can I meet Piff?
that's awesome. Oh,
Yeah.
that's really cool.
Yeah,
I love Piff.
he's funny and he's just great.
Now I have a question.
Yeah.
How much food did he eat when you first met him? Was there food being consumed during the interview?
It was
or-
not being consumed. I met him before a show.
Okay.
And so I was just at his show. My hookup from Bill was free tickets and the
Oh,
meet
nice.
and greet afterwards. And I thought that would be great. And then somebody came to my table because it was at a dinner theater comedy club.
Okay.
And they're like, "Are you Braden?" "Yeah." "Who are you?" He's like, "Come with me." And I'm like, "What did I do?" And he just walked me backstage, and I just hung out with Piff for like 20 minutes.
That's
But
awesome.
it was him, Brett, and Jade, and they were
Ooh,
just talking about the food they wanted to eat after the show.
that's awesome.
Because they're like, they're giving us this much money for food. We could each get one big meal, or we could get like two smaller meals.
That's
And
awesome.
Jade was just in the corner saying, "Well, I brought meals from home that are healthy." Like,
Oh, I love that. I love
yeah.
that. Random question: the guy who
Mhm.
brought you over, did he have like tattoos on his hands?
Yeah, it was Zach, I think is his name.
Oh, okay, never mind then. Because
No,
I was wondering if it might have been Anton, because that would have been
no,
since
no.
Anton's
It
from
was Zach.
Florida. I know that when he was doing a lot of the Florida
Mhm.
stuff as well, he
Okay,
was
no,
different.
I saw him in DC where I
DC.
go to
Okay,
college. Yeah, yeah,
okay, gotcha.
yeah,
Cool. I just
yeah.
that would just been really funny if it ended up being him. Small
No.
world there. So
I have to know why you asked that question though. How much food did Piff eat while you met him?
well, so I met him at the end of the show.
Hmm.
So we were at the bar, and he was getting his meals
Right.
at the end, and then
Cool.
I was holding Mr. Piffles, and that's all I focused on. So
Oh yeah, I've got like a picture on Instagram with Piff, but it's like the multiple feature thing. So it's me with Piffles and then me with Piff.
that's great.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, it was so funny because it was like so we're at the end of the show. We're talking. Anton had introduced me to Piff because like since I make
Oh,
gimmicks, he's
cool.
like, oh, like Josh might be able to help you with some stuff. And then uh, Mr. Piffles had just come out, and he's like, "Oh, here, just hold him." And he just tosses Mr. Piffles like
Yeah,
into
I
my
know he
hand,
does that. Like during
which
the meet and greet after the show, it's like, who wants to hold this dog?
right? Yeah. So I just thought it was the funniest thing. That it was literally, it was just like, "Here you go." It's like we're just sitting at the bar, and I'm just holding Mr. Piffles.
Yeah.
I'm like, "Is this happening? What's going on?" Like, it was cool.
That's great. Yeah, I love Piff. He's a great guy too.
Yeah, very cool dude.
Yeah.
Very sarcastic. I love it.
Oh,
So
for
good.
sure. He's the
And
most
he's always
sarcastic
like
person.
that. I think that's what's great. Is like that's not a
Yeah.
character.
No, that's
That's
just
him.
him.
That's him.
Yeah. The character is only the dragon costume. No other part
Wait,
of
that's a
that is a
costume?
character. Yeah, that's what I thought, but he was on the podcast and I asked him about how it was being a magic dragon and he's like, "Look, Braden, here's the thing. You
My
do
God.
know I'm not a dragon, right?"
Oh my God.
I know. It's like finding out. Well, I'm not even gonna say it. There's a certain December man that I don't want to ruin it for anybody, but
I have to reevaluate my entire life now. Cut the podcast. This is what just
existential
happened.
crisis.
For
Yeah,
real.
you
Oh my
thought you
God.
hung out with a magic dragon and his dog.
I did. I assumed that was what happened.
Yeah. No, it was really funny when I met him though. He's like, excuse, like in person, not on the podcast, but he's
Yeah.
like, "Pardon me, I'm in my human suit right now."
That's
Like,
awesome.
so before the podcast, I thought it was a bit he just always kept up. But then I asked him about it, and he's like, "Just drop it. We're not talking about that here."
That's great. Oh, I
Yeah.
love it.
Mhm. So that's it for like all the questions I have. But there's some questions on Reddit if you don't mind answering those,
I
or if
mind
you
them
want to be done.
terribly. I hate Magic Reddit. What are you
Oh,
talking
I
about?
know it's the worst. I hate it.
God.
There's so many people who want to learn.
Oh, sarcasm, sarcasm, sarcasm. I love
Yes,
our
yes. Oh, I
Magic.
love
Like
the
seriously, the
Reddit.
people there are dope. So
Hmm.
just,
If it wasn't for
I
the
don't want
Magic
this
Reddit,
audio
yeah.
clip to get out and everyone's just like, oh, Josh said he hates our Magic. Like, no, I
Yeah.
want the record to show that I am a big fan.
Yeah,
So
this whole podcast, all the other ones I've done, all the ones I've set up, it's just a scheme to get that audio clip from you. We're done. I got it. Pack it up.
that's amazing.
Yeah.
That is the long con right
Yeah,
there.
it is.
Wow.
That is the best magic trick.
'Cause like, I had no relation to Richard Turner, and you got him on this podcast. Like
Right?
you went all out for this like
I
con.
did.
Yes, let's
Yeah.
answer the questions, the Reddit questions.
Now I have to get Richard Turner or I look like an idiot. Sorry, I'm just thinking about how I'm going to do that. No, okay.
I don't know either.
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
just that was literally the first name that I just
Yeah.
thought of. I was just like, oh, I'm gonna name someone who's well known. So,
But Richard Turner, he's great. Oh my god, he was on Fool Us. I have one more question. Speaking of Fool Us, have you ever thought about doing Fool Us or talked with the Fool Us producers at all? Oh, that's a sigh.
it's a sigh.
Oh,
I have been speaking with them for the past 3 seasons,
okay.
and I keep on getting like off by one. So I
Mhm.
just like keep on barely missing it, which is so
Yeah.
frustrating for me, especially because I met Michael Close.
I was gonna ask who you'd been talking to because I've emailed with Michael Close a couple times.
Okay, yeah. So I was talking with the producer, so I wasn't talking with Michael. And it was
Okay.
funny because like when I met Michael, he was like, "Oh, I know who you are." So I assumed that meant he had seen my stuff,
Yeah.
like I had submitted. He's like, "I never saw anything that you submitted." I'm just like,
Oh.
had I known, I so next time I'll talk with Michael himself.
Yeah, I just emailed him directly. I didn't go to the producers. I actually asked to bill hers. I'm like, how can I get on Full Us?
That's funny.
And like I had talked with Michael, and I was just he told me the deadline was coming up, so I just threw something together. I'm not proud of it at all. Maybe next season I'm working on stuff for it, but this like he's like, you just threw that together, didn't you? I'm like, yeah.
Ooh,
Yeah.
ooh,
I mean, you could tell,
that
like, I
pains
didn't.
me for you.
Yeah. Well, he said, do you have a video of anything? And I said, yes. And 3 hours later, I sent him one.
Well,
So,
technically, you had a video.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, in the future, I had a video.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
yeah, no, I
So,
definitely
next
I
season.
would love to do it if possible. So
Hmm.
if anyone from Full S is listening, make it happen,
Yep.
please. Oh, thank you. Bye.
Me too. Okay, now to go to Reddit. Now
Go
that
to
I've
Reddit.
asked
Let's
about
do that.
your allergies, your moving so you can't do the Disney Spring Star Wars, and your failure to get on Fool Us.
Man, and we talked about my mortality.
I know, I
I don't know how I
know.
feel about this podcast
I feel
anymore.
so bad for you.
Uh, wow, that was harsh.
No, no, no. I mean that you had to come on and do this in the
Oh,
morning.
gotcha. Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
no,
I just
not
thought
for
you
you
meant you
as a
felt bad for
person.
me
No,
in
no.
general. I'm like, well,
Hey,
let's
but
delete everything.
at least you have your head on every table at a pizza shop. So that's going well for you.
That is that's that. Oh gosh. Okay, questions. Reddit. Let's
Yeah,
do that.
questions from Reddit. Gigantic usually asks a certain question, so I'm gonna ask it for him.
Okay.
Is there some... he didn't ask it this time, but he has on every other thread that I've put up. Is there something about magic? Oh, how does he phrase it? I don't even know. Give me a second. I'm gonna go back. I don't want to get this wrong. Submitted. Where are my questions? Right here. For
Very well rehearsed of us, by the way. This was totally all planned, just
oh,
like
of course.
the kids show magician talk. That was
Yeah.
all scripted.
No, we're so professional that we scripted it to look like we're a little unprofessional.
True. It makes
It
it more
is.
believable that way.
It does. It does. I had this pulled up. I was just clicking buttons on my computer
I was playing
and
Angry
just
Birds when I
waiting
was looking at the list,
for most
and
of the podcast.
yeah, no, I'm doing it right now. It's incredible. So,
All right. What's something that you believe about magic that other magicians might disagree with?
ooh, ooh, well, that's deep.
Yeah.
Oh, crap, I wish we
So
did
just
that.
bring out your rehearsed answer.
I'm trying to think. Let's see. Oh gosh. Okay. Repeat the question one more time while I stall for time.
What is something that you believe about magic that other magicians might disagree with?
I actually am not sure off the top of my head.
All
I
right.
I feel like I probably have an answer somewhere, most likely in a debate with Jeff Praise, to be honest. But I can't think of it at this moment. I'm gonna. Am I able to pass? Well, I think
Yeah, sure, sure.
I'm gonna
Pass.
pass because
Okay.
I am not sure about that one.
Yeah.
That's
Here, I'll
damn.
share Piff's answer with you because I thought it was hilariously ironic. He
Okay.
said, "Don't use a character."
That's actually amazing.
Yeah.
Oh gosh.
All right. So going on to the question Gigantic actually
Oh
asked.
yeah, maybe I can answer that one.
Yeah, yeah.
Let's go with his real question.
Well,
So-
this is up your alley. You do a lot of money magic, and you just moved to Canada. He's asking about reworking your all of your money magic. Do you have to rework it to Canadian bills, or could you still use U.S. dollars and just
so
let it be?
so I can actually I'm able to use U.S. bills just because since I am from the U.S. Like that's my presentation right there. Is like, oh hey, like, have you ever looked at U.S. money? It's so weird. Here, let me show you some of the weird things. But I have been reworking some of them to use Canadian money, and I've been working on some tricks specifically just for Canadian money.
Oh wow,
So
that's cool.
yeah.
I saw on Instagram you made one of your Impossible bills, your Inside Out bills, out of
Yeah, so that was
a
more of
Canadian
a
dollar.
normal mismade bill rather than a full-on impossible, but
Oh,
they
okay, it
don't
wasn't.
make mismade Canadian bills, so
Right.
I made one.
Cool. Yeah. Hey.
There we go.
Yeah, I've got Canadian money near me, and like it's in my wallet. I've got a 1 and a 20, and they're so weird. They're not real money.
Well, the one definitely isn't because the bills only are at five.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
what?
The 1 is a coin.
Yeah, okay, okay. I was gonna say
Yeah.
that you.
No, no.
It's
I've
like
got
you
like
definitely don't have
a
real
zipper
money. Then.
pocket on my wallet.
If you have a $1 Canadian bill, then
No,
there's
no.
you might need to talk to whoever gave that to
No,
you.
I'm just bad at Englishing.
Okay, good. It's okay. I talk
Yeah.
goodly too.
Yeah. No,
So,
I will turn on my camera and prove it to you, Josh Janousky.
well, come
Well,
on. The viewers at home obviously are wait. I'm just kidding.
oh, the viewers, I know. The viewers, how are they viewing this?
I don't know.
I don't know.
NSA, probably.
Yeah.
Well, my
Oh,
Echo started talking,
yeah, your Echo.
so that's obviously how it
Hmm.
happened.
All right. So, the Klaus, he's a
What's
good one.
Oh, it's all
He
my friends. This is cool.
Yeah, he just says ask about his new book.
Yes. Okay.
Which I feel like I already did. So what more does he want? I don't know. And
Well,
then he
I mean,
says,
I actually I mentioned
uh-huh.
the booklet, but I am working
Oh
on
yeah,
it.
he says book slash pamphlet. So maybe
Yeah.
he means both of them.
So
Yeah,
just
can you talk
Joshin,
about the book?
I can. Yeah. So just
Cool.
Joshin was the booklet that we talked about, and then I'm writing an actual book,
Hmm.
which is called Bank.
Yeah, it's
And
fiction. It's about a heist. It's
no, my real book's not going to sound as cool.
oh
Tell me that. I'm just kidding. Um, so it's a true story about me robbing a bank. No, I'm just kidding.
yeah, and how
No,
I got away.
right. So
Statute of
it's
limitations is expired. We're good.
so yeah. So the book is called Bank, and the
Mhm.
subtitle is Expert at the ATM. Uh,
Oh, I like that.
Thank you. And it's an entire book on money magic. So everything is just with dollar bills or bills in
Hmm.
general. So like there are
Bills,
tricks
bills, bills.
obviously that are not restricted to U.S. currency. Um, so there are some, but there are also others that are not. So for my
Hmm.
global listeners, what's up? Um, but yeah, so just a bunch of money tricks, and it's almost done. It's been a while working on this one, and lots of research has gone into it. Lots of research. But it's finally almost done. I think I have like 5 more to finish writing,
Hmm.
and then it'll start going through the editing process, and then getting a forward written, and then getting
Cool.
quotes. And I'm being purposely vague just because I'm waiting to hear back from people, so I don't want
Yeah,
to
yeah.
be like, yeah, and then this person is going to be doing it, and then they don't, and then I cry because it's on the internet.
Here,
So
I'll give you a quote. That's great. Apply it to whatever you want.
perfect,
This is the most magical thing I've ever seen.
perfect. Love
There you
it.
go. Yeah,
That's gonna be the cover.
yeah,
So it's actually gonna be a photo of you, which is gonna be people are gonna be very confused because they're like,
yeah.
what
It's
does he
like,
have to do with
yeah.
money magic and Josh? I don't.
Who is that guy?
What's so?
I've never seen him. Is he is he a big deal? Oh
Josh looks
no.
a lot different than his videos.
Yeah.
What's happening?
Oh, that's what he looks like with hair.
Yeah, right now I'm just going for the Jay Sankey, Garrett Thomas, John Lovick look personally.
Hmm.
So
Yeah. Ah, don't mention John Lovick to me.
okay.
No, he was supposed to do the podcast like right after I was done with yours, but he emailed me this morning. He's like, "Can't make it today." I'm like, "No."
Aw.
Yeah, it'll happen eventually. Yeah. Um. Okay.
Well,
The Klaus
clearly he
also.
heard that I was doing the podcast, and
Yeah, he's
"Ah."
like, "I can't do it.
He's like,
We look
you
similar."
already have a bald magician with glasses doing magic
Yeah.
with dollar bills.
Yeah.
I
Do
don't think.
some interviews where people have hair first, then get back to me.
It's just a good thing I'm not a male model.
No, of
Otherwise,
course. Yeah.
that would have been a
Yeah.
serious
Then
issue.
why even get John Lovick? I've got you. If you're a male model, like that's his only angle now.
No, John is amazing. I love
Yeah,
John.
no, he's great.
John's a cool dude.
Hmm.
Hi, John. If you listen to mine, I don't know if you will, but if you do,
Yeah, I don't know if he listened or he's like, yeah, this kid emailed me, so why not? I feel like that's how I get most of my guests. Because
hi.
I'm a great interviewer. These segues are the best. The class also says, why money? Just 2 words. Why money?
Why money? Why?
Yeah,
I'll
his
tell you why. Tell you why. No, honestly,
Okay.
I before I got into magic, I always found money fascinating, just from
Hmm.
like a design point of view. Like,
Yeah,
and
and robbing that
also,
bank.
yeah, well, that too. Duh.
Yeah.
Um,
You had so much of it to play around with.
exactly. No, so I always thought like the design was very cool, and then obviously like the whole like history of how it's changed, and then like the whole like mystique of like ooh Illuminati and all those like crazy jazz things. Um, but I always thought that was really interesting. And then when I got into magic, like I like doing things with organic, borrowed things that make sense, kind of deal. Like
Hmm.
for example, so I picked up Mint Box from
Yep.
Dan Garcia. I absolutely love it. And even though there are like boxes that are like completely clear and you're able to see through it the entire time,
Yeah.
I love Mint Box just because this feels more natural as putting a card in a box is. Like, but
Hmm.
it feels like an organic thing. So I like things that don't feel magic proppy. And with
Yeah.
money, everyone has money on them. Um,
Well,
well,
everyone would like to.
yeah, everyone
Well,
has held money at one point. So
yeah.
there.
I wish I had money.
So yeah, so they're familiar with it. They know about it, and then the other thing is, money has security features that people
Hmm.
know exist. They don't know what they are, but everyone feels like they know what they could like see a counterfeit, which I think is
Right.
hilarious because like most people, if you handed them a counterfeit dollar bill, they'd have no idea what
Yeah.
its were. But everyone always feels like they know that they could tell. They're like, yeah, no,
Hmm.
I could figure it out. It was fake. So I feel like when you do magic with money, it's more impressive because they're like, no, this is real. This is a legit thing. And like they know that you shouldn't be able to alter it, but you just did in a crazy
Yeah.
way. So, and then also the other thing is like if magic powers were real, what would you do? Well, you would like make money appear or you would
Hmm.
change stuff into money. So like it feels relatable. So yes, that's why
Yeah.
money plus cuz magic.
Cause magic. There you
Cuz
go.
that's just my answer for everything.
Yeah. Cause magic.
What's one thing that you have a what was it? The thought? Yeah, cuz
Yeah.
magic.
Yeah.
So
Cause magic.
that's my answer for that one.
Cool. I'll go back, edit that in post. I'll take the
Perfect.
audio and just yeah.
Perfect. No one will understand it, but
Yeah. Yeah.
perfect.
Well, I hope. I mean, that's a perfect answer to this next question from Klaus. He says, "Why the hat?"
Actually, hat came before magic.
Huh.
Um, yeah, so I've always loved hats. Like, just always loved hats. I'm a hat person.
Hmm.
When I was like a little baby, wore hats. When I was a little toddler, wore hats. When I was a little
Yep.
kid, wore hats. Um, so I was always a big fan of hats. And then growing up, I listened to a lot of like Frank Sinatra and Dean Martin,
Hmm.
and then a lot of like Michael Jackson, like all those kind of fun things. And I was a musician before I was a magician. And so in high school, I did a jazz saxophone duet with my friend Nick Port, and he wore a hat. I'm like, shit, that's a cool hat. I want to get a hat like that. And so I bought a hat like that, and then it became my thing. And so it's actually kind of
Hmm.
funny because Nick was the one who wore it first, yet everyone knew me for wearing the hat. And
Nice.
yeah, it's become my thing. So and I
Yeah.
like wearing hats, and now that I don't have hair, it keeps my head warm. So
Nice.
bonus.
Yeah. Well, I have I know a couple guys who wear hats in Magic, and I've got a friend who wears a hat when he performs, and this kind of they say that it makes it hard for them to like if they take off the hat, people don't recognize them, and this kind of goes with Klaus's next question. He says, "Do you feel like your logo makes it impossible for you to change your appearance?"
I don't think so.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's the hat has been such a huge part of my aesthetic that
Mm-hmm.
I feel like even if I wasn't wearing a hat, people
Yeah.
would still just sort of picture the hat.
Right. So
So
like if
yeah,
hats just became illegal
if
and you
hats just became
couldn't
well,
wear
then
one.
if hats just became illegal, I'm definitely keeping the logo because check that out. I wore a
Yeah.
hat.
I wore a
So
hat.
I was
I'm
I
the
was I wore
martyr.
hats before they weren't a thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I don't think it would make me change my logo. Honestly, the only thing that I've considered changing from my logo is I have hair in my logo and I no longer
Oh
have
yeah,
hair.
you do, I guess.
Yeah, I shaved my head, so I've been contemplating erasing the hair from my logo, but then I'm also like, it's still me.
Don't you
So
also have glasses in your logo?
yes, but I'm not wearing glasses right now because it's the
Mm-hmm.
morning.
Yeah.
So, but
Do you wear glasses when you perform?
I wear glasses all the time.
Oh, okay. Oh,
I'm
okay.
not wearing them
Okay.
right now because I woke up before this interview
Right.
and my glasses are over there. and
Yeah.
my computer's here. So
Yeah.
it was quicker to get to the computer than it was to grab glasses. And no
Nice.
one's seeing my face. So,
It's true. It's true.
but for the viewers at home, I'm wearing glasses.
Yes, he completely is. He also just wants to know. He says, "What's next?"
Wow,
So,
such an
like
open-ended question.
today, I mean, you might get breakfast, right?
Yeah, I was gonna say I'll have breakfast.
Cause magic.
Cause magic. There we go. Done. Next question. I mean, today I'm doing grocery shopping and laundry
Cool.
and watching a movie. That's about it.
Yeah.
Um,
I guess
and
next is your lecture and then your book.
yeah, I was gonna
And then
say
after that,
next.
come on, Josh, what are your plans?
Well, okay. So the next thing is
Give us the 5 years.
I have a release coming out with Vanishing Ink. That
Cool.
is probably the next thing coming out. Hopefully this month. I'm not sure. We should find that out. But yeah, I have that, and then I have a bunch of other projects lined up. I shot two things with Penguin when I filmed my lecture, and we might be doing a third thing. I have a butt ton of stuff coming out with Murphy's, and I have some other companies I've been speaking with about some other things that we just have to work out, like filming dates and all that fun stuff. So
Cool.
yeah, and
Well,
then the
that
book.
sounds exciting. Yeah. And now his last questions. He's asked a lot, but he gives us things to talk about.
And he started the Magic Secret Santa, so
It's true. Oh, did you participate in that? That was
I
so
have
fun.
100% participated.
That was so fun.
I really enjoyed it, and then actually, like, I enjoyed it so much for the people who, like, the three people who got stiffed. Like, I helped them out because, like,
Wait, were there people that got stiffed?
there was
Oh,
only like a few.
okay.
It was like literally I think like two people or three people. I don't remember
Okay.
off the top of my
Yeah.
head, but like I wanted to because I enjoyed it so much because that was my first time ever doing like a Magic Secret Santa. I was like everyone has to experience this.
Oh,
So
for sure.
like I
I
helped out.
felt
So
bad because the person I got, they had a specific thing on their wish list, and I ordered it. And then, have you ever ordered something on Penguin, and then after you order it, and the order goes through, it says out of stock?
oh, I've not had that happen.
Okay, it happened to him, and he didn't get it till like the middle of January. But like, I messaged him, and I'm like, I got it. Don't worry. Here's like the order number. Don't feel bad. Christmas is happening.
Oh, well at least
I
he got
know.
it though. That's
Yeah,
that's
yeah, he got it, and he messaged me and said it was awesome.
that's good.
It was a David Blaine Street Magic DVD, I believe.
Oh, nice. That's
Yeah,
cool.
he said he was just getting into magic, and he really
Aw,
admired David Blaine. I know it was so cool.
that's
As like a
awesome.
15-year-old kid, it was awesome to do that for someone.
That's cool.
That was really cool that you got to do it for three extra people who
Yeah, it was fun. I mean, like
didn't get a Christmas.
yeah, I felt like Santa Claus, which is weird because
Yeah.
I'm Jewish.
Well, there you
But
go. That's awesome.
yeah, but no, I enjoyed it. It was fun. So
hmm
that's next is next year's
That's next.
Magic
Secret
Secret Santa.
Santa. It's
Prepared.
a new Secret Santa. Josh is just gonna buy something for everyone,
Whoa, 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 whoa! Hold on, hold
but
on.
then everybody gets him something.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
So, what if they gave me money? So now I'm just selling things. I think that's where we just.
But like they give you $10 and you buy something that's like 15 and
That doesn't sound like a good investment.
no, it's money magic, right? Diminishing returns. I
Yeah,
feel like that's a
great.
name of a trick.
That's actually a good name for a trick. Now I have to come up with one.
Yeah, the $100 goes into a one. You never see that happen. It's like you robbed a bank and you need to launder money, but how do you hide it? Yeah.
That's awesome.
So his question was biggest influences, and I feel like we just answered that pretty well.
Oh, obviously, because magic. No, big
Yeah.
influences. Greg Wilson and Jay Sankey were two
Mm-hmm.
of the people when I first got started in magic that like I looked up a lot of their stuff. Wayne Houchin and Justin Willman were like my two favorite magicians when I first got started. I love Justin Flom and James Galea, David Blaine, Penn and Teller.
Mm-hmm.
God, bunch of people. There's so many. John Lovick, Jeff Price.
Jabrizi.
Obviously, have I not shown you my full tattoo of him?
As long as we're throwing shade at Jarek 120.
Don't get me started.
Oh, for the listeners, his face just dropped.
We got in a feud on Twitter.
Really?
We did.
Wow.
We
Oh, I
did.
have to hear this story if you don't
Yeah.
mind sharing.
Basically, what happened was is he like whenever you would look up a magic video,
Uh-huh.
like his video would pop up as a
And then who is it? Pig cake?
oh no, this was years ago, so this was before
Oh,
Pig Cake.
okay. Wow, wow.
Yeah, so it would you would look up for a video, no matter what you looked up magic wise, his would pop up as
I
like a
remember
suggestion.
that.
Just
Yeah.
because of the fact that like with the way the algorithms worked,
Mm-hmm.
like he's a popular channel using similar metadata, so that's
Yeah.
the blah 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 technical terms. And so I tweeted about how annoying it was that no matter what like magic video you would look up, you would be seeing like this poor excuse for a magician like next to it. And obviously I tagged him on Twitter because I'm like, fuck it, whatever.
Yeah, you got it.
And so then he started replying. But like the thing he did, which was super petty, is when you reply on Twitter,
Uh-huh.
the only way for a tweet that you reply to another person to be like viewed in someone's timeline is if they follow both of those people.
Right.
Otherwise, you don't see it because that's why like when big companies respond to people's questions, you don't see that on your timeline when you follow them.
Mm-hmm.
But a way around that is if you put anything before you're like you at them, it will show up as a normal.
Oh, really? I didn't know that. Wow.
Yeah. So like if he was just responding to me, the only people who would see our conversation were people who followed both of us. Instead, he put a period before every single one, so that way it was a public response. So then all
Wow.
followers were seeing it. So I was getting so much hate from all of his followers, and then like he started getting like super petty, and like posting like photos of me and like insulting my mother, and it was so
Wow.
he even like commented on my Facebook, and like he like it was like full on just like he was going for it. But what was funny though, this actually made my day was so Zach Mueller, and I
Uh-huh.
used to talk way back then because this was like right when he was doing whatever the show was that he did with Theory 11. I'm suddenly blanking on the name.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was Insider at that point. But
Was it?
so
Okay.
Zach and I would be talking back then, and so Zach jumped in, and this was right when Fontaines were getting really big. So
Mhm.
like he had a lot of his audience were now going after Jarek, and it was hilarious reading some of the comments because people were like, "But I like Jarek and I like Zach. What do I do?" Like it was so funny. And then like a bunch of other like professional magicians, like Nash Fong and Randy Shine, they commented as well. So it was just like this huge thing blowing up.
That's
And
awesome.
yeah, I am not a fan of Jarek whatsoever.
Yeah.
So yeah, fuck you, Jarek. Gonna put that on the record.
Yeah.
That's how much I dislike him. That
Yep,
is
just
on
that audio
record.
clip. I hate Magic Red.
Yeah, I hate Magic Red and fuck Jarek.
Yeah.
Oh God, no. Let's not do that.
Yeah. No, for me with Jarek, it's like Disturbed Reality. Every week I looked forward to like the two reviews or two tutorials every week. I looked forward to them. But like looking back at those videos, I'm like, wow, this is how I learned. I'm so glad I went to the library eventually.
Oh, I'm glad. Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, other reason. So French Kiss is a Wayne Houchin trick, and obviously Jarek has stolen it and claimed it as his own, which is another big.
Wait, I just assumed he gave credit. Did he?
Oh,
He
no.
claimed it. Wow.
He's claimed it as his own. Theory 11 has asked him to take it down, and he refuses to.
Wow.
Yeah, no, he's a shitty human being. But so here's the thing that happened is so I used to be really big into YouTube, and I would go to like YouTube conventions. And several years ago, I went to a YouTube convention called Playlist Live, and I met Jenna Marbles for the first time, and I did magic for her, and I did French Kiss. And then maybe I want to say it was like 6 months later at another magic convention, Jarek did the same thing for Jenna Marbles. Now we both posted videos. I got so many comments on my video from people saying, "Oh, you stole this from Jarek. Jarek did this first." And if you look at the dates, mine was posted 6 months before
Yeah.
his
That's always
place.
fun.
Like there was literally no way I could have taken it from him because the video was posted before his event was even
Yeah.
like happened. So that just like always annoyed me. And then the fact that then people were starting to comment saying like this is Jarek's trick. I'm like, hold up.
Yeah.
Wayne is a friend. That is not his trick. What the fuck is going on?
Yeah.
So,
Even if
yeah.
you did it after him,
Mhm.
so what?
Exactly.
It's neither of yours.
Right? Like that's what was really annoying me too. Is I'm like, it's not even my trick, but to say I copied him when I did it before him,
Yeah.
like
It's
it made
not
sense that he did it because it's a logical trick to do for her, which is
right.
the reason why I did it. But like then to have people yelling at me, I'm just like, what the fuck's going on?
Yeah, yeah.
Am I allowed to
Uh,
curse? I just realized I cursed twice.
yeah, yeah, no, it's
Okay,
fine. It's fine.
cool. I just wanted to make sure.
No, this podcast is aimed for 6-year-olds.
Oh,
So,
good, good,
yeah, yeah.
good.
So the
Fart.
more they
I meant
hear
to say
about the
farts.
real world, the
That's what I
better.
meant to say.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, farts. So,
Fart Jarek.
yeah.
It's okay. Now he's doing crappy daily vlogs every 6 months.
Yeah, see, I don't even pay
So,
attention.
yeah.
All I know is he does wrestling, and a family friend also is into wrestling and like is in
Uh-huh.
a similar circle. And I just really hope that one day that they wrestle and he kicks his ass. Like that would just make my day.
No, but
So
Jarek, he can hypnotize people.
yeah, I don't care. I because here's the deal. So it's our family friend's son who's the one who's into
Uh-huh.
wrestling, and I told the story to the family friend, and she's like, "Yeah, if he's ever like against him, he'll kick his ass." So like,
That's cool.
I hope that that happens, and I
Yeah.
want that like I want that clipped, framed. I want that. I just want one of like someone get me one of those video picture frames and
Uh-huh.
just have that on loop.
Yeah,
That
whenever you have a
so much
stage
joy.
show,
That would just
you
bring
can
me
tell
so
the
much.
story. Like Piff tells the Andre the Giant story. Um, there, I forget who it is, but one of the big magicians tells like the spike through the hand story and shows
Yep,
clips there. Like you need to tell the Jarek story and then show
exactly.
the clip of him just getting
Oh no,
pounded
that's
into
just
the
gonna be
ground.
my pre-show video with no context. Like that's all it is. No one's gonna
Yeah,
understand it whatsoever. They're
yeah.
like,
You
why?
you don't need an opening act. It's
Yeah, they're
just
like, but
this.
Josh, you don't wrestle. Why do you have wrestling? I don't understand
Hmm.
what's happening.
Yeah.
So
That's great. So your biggest influence are Jabrizi and Jarek.
yeah,
Okay, we got it.
hands down.
Yeah, it's the J magicians: Jabrizi, Jarek, Josh,
Oh
Janousky.
God, don't put my name with it. You take that back right now.
Got that audio clip too. Wow, this interview's just going.
I'm very much regretting this entire interview. We've talked about my mortality. We've made fun of my
Yeah,
life. We're now we
yeah.
have compromising audio clips. What is happening here?
Don't worry. There's only like 3 more questions.
Oh, good.
Okay, so Josh has his camera on, and he just
I forgot that I had the camera on.
yeah, yeah. He's just doing magic with the Rubik's cube.
Totally forgot that I had it on. Completely on
Well,
it.
like I'm looking at Reddit and I just glance over here and you just snap your fingers. I'm like, it took me back a little. I mean,
Sorry, my
I
bad.
know you're a magician, like, and Rubik's cube effects, they're fun, but I just didn't expect to see that.
Sorry, I didn't mean to. I'm playing around with something, so.
Yeah. Oh, I've got cards in my hand. um. Okay.
Okay.
Questions.
Yeah. Segue.
Yeah.
That's magic.
This one's actually from me. I forgot to ask it earlier. You create a lot of
Did
magic.
you
How
submit
do
it to
you?
yourself? I just want to know. Did you submit it in the thread? Because otherwise, it's not official, and you can't ask it.
Yeah. There we go.
Perfect. Perfect. Okay, continue.
Yep. Now that I've submitted it through the proper channels,
Yes.
you talk. You don't talk about creation. You do creation. You create. Words English goodly. You are a huge creator. A lot of people know your name because you put out consistently great effects. How do you think about the effects? Like, how do you create your magic? Do you just go and say, I'm going to do something with a dollar bill right now? Or do you just think of something and you're like, I'm going to try to make that?
Yes. To both.
Yes? Cool.
Yeah, to both. It really depends. Sometimes I will literally take something. I'm like, I'm coming up with a trick with a dollar today, and I force myself to come up with a trick with a dollar. Other times, I'll just be like, oh man, I really want to come up with a coins across, but I don't want it to be coins. What do I do? And Whiplash was born. So
Oh, I
it,
never
it,
thought of that as a
yeah,
coins are crossing. That's cool.
yeah,
Now that you say that, yeah, it totally is.
yeah. So I came up with that gimmick, and then I came up with the routine because I'm like, I want to do a coins across, but I don't want to use coins. Hey, this gimmick would work. Um, so that's how the whipped across effect came to be. But yeah, so sometimes it's stuff like that, and then sometimes, like I said, I'll find something and be like, cool, I'm doing a trick with this. Like it's very random. My desk is covered in bill cubes, coins,
Yep.
cards, peeps, everything. So,
Right, and a follow-up question. How do you go about getting those published? Do you rely a bunch on, like, do you advertise heavily, or do you just hope it's a good enough effect and people see it? Or
um,
both?
so it's sort of, it varies. So like initially, I submitted to magazines a lot.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I got my first couple of things were published were in magazines. And I thankfully was able to connect with those magazines because of Jeff. Jeff had been published in those magazines, so he told me they're correct people to talk to. And then I spoke with them and submitted things. And then that started to help me get my foot in the door with places. So with the Magic Estate, I knew them from Orlando and we met,
Mm-hmm.
and they knew that I was interested in publishing things because I had just published like my first trick in a magazine, and then they saw Impeached and they're like, we want to do this with you. So like then that got me in with them. And then when I was submitting to other companies, I'm like, oh, well, I have a project that I'm doing with the Magic Estate. And so now they're like, okay, like, cool. So you're doing things. Obviously, you don't have horrible
Gotcha.
ideas. Let's talk
Yeah.
some more. And so then that got my foot in the door with Murphy's. And so then because I did the thing with Murphy's, I was able to do things with Vanishing Ink. And then that went to doing conventions, which got Penguin and just sort of like
Mm-hmm.
expanded. But basically now when I have something that I want to put out, I just sort of think of which company I think it would be the best fit for. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, who do I think this would work well with? And it's because also I like working with a bunch of different companies because
Yeah.
it's a very different experience. Like I film stuff with Penguin, Vanishing Ink, and Murphy's, and everyone does it completely different. So it's like very cool seeing how things happen.
That's
So
cool. Yeah.
yeah.
I asked Josh, I don't know why I'm telling you this, I guess I'm talking to the listeners. I asked him over Instagram a couple weeks ago, like, how do you get an effect published? And now I'm currently, like, emailing back and forth with Penguin trying to publish my first thing, but it's way more grueling than you would think.
It is. And I'll tell you this, like, definitely talk with multiple companies because one company might pass on something
Yeah.
and another company might take it up.
Right.
Like I won't be specific, but there was one
For
company
sure.
that passed on one effect and another company that took it and it ended up doing very well with that company. So
Yeah.
like it really is hit or miss. And then with Penguin, for years I would submit stuff to Penguin and they were like, "Oh, I think it's cool. You should do it though with the Penguin Partner Program." It actually became a joke that when I finally did a project with Penguin, that we were like, "But it's with Penguin, right? I'm not doing it through the partner program. This is a P3."
Oh, are those different?
Yeah, well, so
Oh,
with
see, I don't
P3
even know. This is why I'm talking with Penguin.
yeah, there you go. Okay, so with Penguin, you have two options basically. You can do something where it's produced by yourself, and Penguin will be the distributor for it. So they give
Gotcha.
you a platform to do it. And then they have P3, which is the things that they produce themselves. But
Cool.
what's actually kind of cool is there have been some things that they did with P3 that started out on the Penguin Partner Program. So
Oh,
it was
awesome.
something like that maybe they initially wasn't sure if there was a market for, which is why they're like, okay, well, here, do it on the partner program so you can still obviously publish it. And then it actually did super well on the partner program. They're like, oh, well, you know what? Here, do you have more ideas? How about we film it professionally? We can get some live performances. And then it became a full-on P3 project.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah, so, but for years though, I would submit things and they're like, yeah, like we definitely think it's 100%, like we'll put it on the partner program. Because the thing is with the partner program, like a lot of people don't realize this, is like there is a vetting process. Like they make sure that the thing is like original and stuff
Yeah.
like that. Because obviously it's not just a like, oh, I came up with a snap change. I'm gonna go teach that now. Like no, like they so when you do something on the Penguin Partner Program, it's like a legitimate product. But that is a product that is produced by you. And so
Right.
I had a couple of things that were on the partner program, and then eventually, like I had something that they're like, we want to do that with us specifically. So
So the partner program, just equating it to another magic company, is kind of like, I don't think they have it anymore. It's called something different, but it's kind of like The Wire.
exactly,
Theory 11.
it's 100% the same thing.
Yeah.
It's 100% the same thing. And I did things on the partner program, and I did stuff on the Wire, and it was awesome. Like it was a really good way of starting out with magic because it was sort of the modern version of a magazine. So like when I first started, I did with magazines, but if I had started producing stuff like creating content when the Wire and the partner program had started, I would have probably done that before magazines just because of the fact that like that's sort of where the industry was going kind of deal. But I still am a huge fan of magazines because also what's nice about that is you can publish something in a magazine, it's yours, but maybe not a lot of people know about it. So
Yeah.
now it's like kind of cool because it's like the super secret underground thing that
Do
was
we have
published
something?
publicly.
Yeah, I've got the March 2018 Penguin Monthly because I just ordered something, and eye popping coin magic from Josh Janousky.
That's neat.
So
I actually don't
yeah.
even have a copy of that issue yet. I
I
should
haven't
probably
read it
talk to
yet,
Nate
so I
about
don't
that.
know if it's good.
It's a horrible trick. It's the
Oh
worst
yeah.
trick I've ever created. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
It's a
So
really fun copper silver
go
routine.
purchase this magazine so you can see the worst trick he's ever created. There you go,
Oh
marketing.
gosh.
That's how Decibel sold, right?
Oh, shots
Oh
fired.
my god. No, I have a gripe with that. I posted a
Ooh.
review video, and Illusionist, I don't know if I should say this, but whatever. The official Illusionist YouTube channel messaged me and said, "Hey, can you take that down?" I'm like, "No."
That's awkward.
Yeah, cuz it got like 12,000 views or whatever. Like not a lot, but for a magic review video, that's kind of a lot.
Yeah.
But yeah. So, we probably won't ever do business with them.
Well, that's awkward.
Yeah. So next question.
Next question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm supposed to very critically ask you, since moving to Montreal, have you consumed a proper poutine or smoked meat sandwich?
Yes.
Very critically. I
Yes.
don't know
Okay.
if I hit the critical
Okay.
point, but
So
just
I have had poutine,
mhm.
but I've been complained about the poutine because of the fact that since I do have food allergies, I had to find one that I could eat. I
Right.
enjoyed it. I thought it tasted good. I was told it is not a very appealing looking poutine.
Ah.
But technically I've had it. It was Canadian
Mhm.
and I was able to eat it. And then as for the smoked meats, I did not have it as a sandwich, but I have had smoked meats because last weekend I hung out with Spidey because he's in Montreal and he introduced me to smoked meats. So I have,
Yep.
yes, 100% properly have had that.
Cool. And that was from JAD.
Yeah.
And yeah. He also wants to know how the Montreal experience is going, both positively and negatively, if you've had positives or negatives. And have you checked out the the local magic scene?
Yes. So I want to say it was like my first weekend
Mm-hmm.
here. I went to a local magic shop,
Cool.
Magi Spectrum. See
Nice.
the business card right here.
Yeah.
And so I went there. I met them. It was cool. So I met some nice guys while I was there. Obviously, I hung out with Spidey, who's here. Chris Ramsey and Katarina are both also here. The weekend I hung out with Spidey, they were both sick. So, because
Oh.
originally it was going to be like all of us hang out, but they were sick. So it was just me and Spidey hanging out. And now, right now, Spidey is in LA. So we're waiting for everyone to be in the same place and healthy and then hanging out.
He just did a TV show appearance, didn't he?
Yep, yeah, he was on Showtime at the Apollo, I think is
That's
what it's
right.
called. So
Yep.
it was actually a random funny story. We were driving to his place, and someone honked at the car and rolled down the window and was like, "Hey, I just saw you on the Apollo," which was kind of cool. I was
That's
like, "Oh
awesome.
shit, that's awesome."
Yeah.
So small world.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've done that, and then Montreal is good. It's colder than Florida.
Yeah, I
And
bet.
it is very French, and I don't speak French, so that has been a little bit of an issue. But
Just say bonjour and je ne sais quoi a lot.
I was going to say the extent of my French is what I've learned from Beauty and the Beast,
Mon
so
ami.
that's about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's really cool. I like it here. I'm excited to be here. It's still like sort of sinking in that I'm like I'm in a different country, living here. Like this isn't
That's
just a
true.
vacation. Like it's like oh
Yeah.
shit, I live here.
That's gotta be weird.
Yeah, it's definitely very strange,
Yeah.
but cool. So
Yeah. I've moved to 2 different states in the past 2 years, but I'm still in the States.
Yeah.
Like, I moved to DC, then Colorado, and from Florida. Those are three very different places,
oh, definitely.
but it's still the U.S.
Yeah. Well, see, for me is I've only ever lived in Florida.
Mhm.
So I have never lived anywhere else. And so the first time I move out of state, I'm not moving out of state. I'm moving out of country.
Yeah,
Like,
you're just going.
I'm just like, well, now I'm Canadian now.
Yeah.
So
Wow, you really have some strong political views to escape this climate.
Uh,
Yeah, politics brought that up because I'm smart. All right, and from Daniel RMK, what trick or effect do you always carry with you?
Ooh.
Is there one, or are there a couple?
Yeah, I mean,
And I'm gonna qualify this question, one that's not yours.
oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
For not mine, I
Yeah.
always have Wikitest, uh,
Oh
by
yeah,
my
that's
by
a good
Mark
one.
Kirstein. I have Instagram, from Patrick Kuhn.
Oh, I love that one. That's great.
And I've actually been using that lately with Mintbox from Dana Garcia. I combined the two. Um,
Hmm.
and then I
Cool.
also have Double Cross as well. Those are normally ones that I have on me pretty much all the time if I'm going out that are not my own. And then I have my own stuff as well.
Yeah. Instagram is very fun, especially for restaurant
Oh, for
work.
sure.
It's great. I don't really do double cross, and it's just me. I don't like touching people's hands right before they eat, just because that feels like,
Yeah, that makes total
yeah,
sense.
yeah.
And see, I would typically do double cross not during my performance before the meal, but if they called me back after the meal.
Right, right,
So,
yeah.
and then actually, I also did it a lot because my manager specifically, that was his favorite trick. So
Oh,
like, he
cool.
would literally go to tables and be like, ask the magician about the X trick. And I
Yeah,
didn't
I
realize for the longest time he was doing that. So I was
really wow.
super confused because I would just show up. They're like, "Can you show me the X trick?" I'm like, "How do you know what's
Yeah,
going
how do you
on?"
know
And then
that?
I found out my manager was literally telling every table to ask me that.
That's cool. Yeah, I had that experience with my restaurant. The manager, I did double cross. He told me that was what sealed the deal for him because I was just doing some magic. And then I'm like, all right, for you though, I like, I know you believe in voodoo, whatever. I went into like this pitch, and he brought all the surfers, and I had to do double cross like 20 times in a row, and
Oh,
you
that's
you don't
awesome.
want to do that,
Yeah.
but it's like I want this job, so
No, that makes total sense.
yeah. But
There's
like,
someone who like did it like double cross with like 40 people all at
uh,
once, and they like all open up their hand and they all have it. It's the funniest thing.
what?
Yeah. I can't. I have to find the video again, but like there's a video where there's like a bunch of people. It might not have been 40, but it
Yeah,
was a bunch of people, and he's like, "Watch, here we go," and tossed it like at the group, and they all held out their hand, and they're like, "What's happening?"
that's amazing if you can pull that off without anybody noticing, though.
Right?
That's awesome. All right, and then the last question from Reddit, and I guess the last question from me, is: do you have any funny magic related anecdotes in your new job?
Oh, and my new job.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
Well,
kind of glossed over it when you mentioned it before, but you said people just recently found out you were a magician.
yep. So, okay. So when I started, um, one of the things we had to do was answer like a questionnaire, and one of the things was like, "Do you have any hobbies?" So obviously, I mentioned I was a magician, and I had a few people like ask me about that, and like it was mainly people who started at the same time as me.
Mm-hmm.
So because like since I didn't know many people, like I showed them magic, but this past Friday was the first time like everyone sort of found out because so on Friday, so normally the work week is 9 to 6, but on Fridays it's 9 to 5 because
Mm-hmm.
in that final hour they have a thing called beer o'clock, which is just like
Oh, cool.
basically like a party to celebrate the end of the week, which is fun. And so it was Friday. It was like 4:55, so it was like the day was pretty much over. Everyone was just like, yeah, like we're killing time. We know that. And I'm talking with my two coworkers next to me, and we were talking about a 3D modeling program. And I mentioned how my friend John is incredibly good at that. And I showed him his portfolio, which included showing my business card because he did a 3D
Mm-hmm.
model
I,
of
I
me for
saw
my
that you
animation.
mocked it up in Reddit, and yeah.
Yep. Yeah. So he did the 3D model for my animation business card, and I showed them to that, and they're like, "Oh, that's so cool!" And I explained how I do a magic trick with my business card, because what I do when I give it out at animation conferences is the picture of my card is me asleep. It's a 3D model of me sleeping, and I
Mm-hmm.
act super embarrassed. I'm like, "Oh my god, I'm so sorry. I was in such a rush. I accidentally printed up the wrong image. Hold on, don't worry, I got this. Hey, wake up!" And then I hand them the card, and I'm awake and I'm waving. And
That's cool.
but I never tell them I'm a magician. So they're always just like, I don't know what's happening. And then they're like, what? Magic? That's so cool. So I was telling my coworkers about that. And they're like, oh, that's so cool. Do you tell them that you're a magician? And I explained I don't. And that I love, though, like that just situational magic where people don't realize you're a
Mm-hmm.
magician. And I explained how my buddy Rahat, Magic Rahat, has made an entire career off of that. And so love Rahat. Shout out to Rahat. I've known him for years. Because we actually at one point had the same amount of YouTube subscribers, and now he has like 5 million. So that changed.
Nice.
But so the thing was, I was explaining, I was like, yeah, this is my friend's channel. And they're like, oh, I've seen him on Ellen's show. And I showed him some of the stuff. And then I said that, oh, he's doing one of my tricks. And they're like, what do you mean one of your tricks? So I explained that I created magic. And they're like, oh, that's amazing. You have to show us something. So I literally was just about to perform. And then we all got called into the kitchen for the party. So I'm like, all right, cool, whatever. So I'm thinking that like I'll show them on Monday or something. And so we finished the announcements. People are starting to like head off into groups, and they're like, Josh, magic now. And they bring over one other friend. So I start performing, and then another person comes over, and then a group is starting to form. And then one of them calls over my boss, like the big boss.
Yeah.
So the big boss comes over, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, because the thing is, they're like, you have to do magic for him. I'm like, all right, cool, I'll show him something. And he comes over, and they're like Omar, Josh is a magician. He has to show you something. And Omar goes, I hate magic. And I'm like, oh, well, that's it, folks. I'm taking the job. Good. Turns out he hates magic because he can't figure it out. But he's like, all right, fine, show me something. So like he didn't really hate magic. So I did some mind reading stuff, and he was just like, so I did Powerball 60 from Richard Sanders. So I do the first one. He's like, but everyone chooses that number, right? Like that must be like a common number or something. Like, no, they do it again. Make it as random as possible. Don't do like a locker number, a jersey number, or a lucky number. Super random. Do it again. And of course I hit it. He's like, fuck you. Like he's like, that's amazing, and goes off. But because more people showed up, so like now I have like a fourth of the office is surrounding me doing magic, and like I had stuff that I had with me normally, but like obviously I did not bring like a set list with me.
Right.
So it just sort of like exploded. So now it'll be interesting to see on Monday if people are expecting tricks on Monday, or if they're now like holding out for Friday, and it's gonna be like every Friday I do things. So so the office now has found out I'm a magician, which was kind of funny. So
it's always fun when the people at your regular life find out you're a magician.
Exactly.
Because it goes one of two ways.
Yes.
They're like, magic is awesome, or oh, okay.
100%. Yeah. And like for me, like I specifically, like even though everyone knew I answered magic in the questionnaire, like I didn't hide that at all. I also didn't want to advertise that I was a magician because I didn't want to be labeled as the magic guy before I get to know people. So at least I felt like, okay, this is my third week here. I've started to like know people. They've befriended me because of me, not because I'm the guy who does magic tricks. Right. So like now if I do magic, it's not a big deal because like I've already cemented my place as a person here. I'm not introducing myself as the magic dude. So, which is actually something that Jeff Price was the one who told me about that. Because when he started his new job, he didn't let people know he was a magician for a while because he wanted the same thing. He wanted to make sure that like they knew him for him.
Right.
And then he was like, oh, by the way, I do magic. So
yeah, I had the same thing when I've moved around a lot. I've started a bunch of new jobs, and like the first time I'm just like, well, so what do you do? Oh, I'm a magician. And then that was what I did. So I'm like, not again, never again will I do that.
Yeah, I mean, it's not necessarily a bad thing at all. Like some people, like,
for sure. If you want to be
magic is
the magic
is their life. But like since for me, magic is a huge part of my life, but it's not my life. I wanted to like make sure that like because this is my first job in the industry. So again, I also didn't want to be like known as the magician guy and not known as like, oh, he's a good animator. So
yeah, like you go to another company years down the line. Oh, you're the animator, but you're the magic guy, right?
Exactly. Yeah, and like I'm cool with that, but like I just didn't want that to be my defining quality. I'd rather it be like, oh wow, we hired you because you're an amazing animator and you're a magician. Well, that's cool, but this is why we hired you. So
yeah, that's really cool. Well, that's all the questions. So we just actually ended the podcast, and we got one more question, and it's from Sean, who Josh was talking about a bit in the podcast, so we just wanted to answer it. So from Reddit, from Sean, his username, I Fight for Users, ask Josh what his favorite routine to perform is, and why is it the 2-man 1-coin routine?
So I'm really glad he asked this question because so like I said, Sean was like the first magician that I ever like hung out with on a regular basis, like in person. And one of the things that we came up with, because like we both went to UCF, so we would meet in like the student union and hang out, or sometimes we'd hang out in my dorm since I lived on campus. And I honestly don't remember how it came to be, but we decided that it'd be really funny if we came up with a two-person, one coin routine. And it was so stupid, but it was so funny. And basically, the thing that kind of made it hilarious is between the two of us, we didn't have the same coins. So like
Nice.
Sean would be producing a Walking Liberty and then hand it to me. I'm doing air quotes for the
Hmm.
people who don't see me. And I would pick it up and it'd be a Kennedy $50. And then we would at the end with like a jumbo coin. And I think the coin at one point was like a jumbo dime. So it was like none of the coins matched up. And it was so funny, but like the thing was, is the first time we showed anyone else, because like we would just do it for ourselves, and we thought we were hilarious.
Hmm.
And so we're at the Magic Estate. This was, I think, this was actually this was the first time I went. So like Sean had just taken me to the Magic Estate, and we start to perform, and Chad Long is there, and the way the routine basically goes is Sean is the one performing and I come over and I'm an asshole and I take the coin from him. So it's really funny for magicians because there's a bunch of coin slides going on. For
Uh-huh.
lay people, like a lot of the magic moments are moments that they don't notice because it's
Right.
like the coin is in his hand and I do a false transfer and now it's in my hand. But so we're doing the routine and Chad Long is just walking by. And so he sees Sean performing, and then he sees me interrupt, and then he's like, "Wait, is this a thing? This is a thing!" So he got like really excited. So
Yeah.
obviously, other people came over and watched us, and there's a video somewhere on the internet. I That's going to be people's homework if they really want to find this routine, they have to do the digging for it. But there is a video out there of Sean and I doing this routine, and yeah, I'm going to say that's my favorite routine to perform because it's one of the funniest things that we have ever come up with.
That's
So
awesome. If I've got this nailed right, I do believe I found your Fool Us routine. It should be this one man, two man, one coin routine.
okay,
Yeah.
yes, yes, so
Yeah.
yes, then you found it.
Yep.
Yeah,
I think it should
yeah,
be
not
this.
the Fool Us routine, but this is the one coin
Yeah.
routine.
No, no, I think you should do that on Fool Us.
Oh,
That
oh,
should
you
be
think
your
that's
Fool
what I
Us
should
routine.
do?
Yeah. You should go on there and do that.
That would actually be really. I feel like that'd be really good if like Sean and I were both people who had like fooled them before,
Oh,
and
right. And
they
then you
like
come
built it
back
up,
on.
and they're like
Yeah.
Sean and Josh are coming back, and they're doing an act together,
Hmm.
and then we do this routine, and I think
Yeah.
that would just be the funniest
Yeah.
thing
Like
in the
season
world.
5, Josh, Janousky Fools. Season 7, Sean, I don't know his last name, Fools.
Think of
Okay, yeah, he fools them. Season like 15, you guys come together and just do this.
yes, yes, and it should be the final episode ever, and we're
Yeah.
the final routine, and then just like really, that's what we're ending on.
Yeah.
You get the Super Fool Us trophy, and then they like pull out like a
Yeah.
giant fu. It'd be great.
Thank you so much for coming and embracing mortality and putting
All over
audio
the place
clips
with this
out
one.
there.
Yeah, no, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.